Now, I know that Create React App already comes with Jest and other testing tools pre-installed, but I think it's important for us to understand how it works so that we can also build something like Create React App ourselves. So I'm going to start from scratch and set up a few testing examples for you. Now, Jest here has great documentation. Once again, with any library, you go through their guide and they provide a lot of info. So let's get started by installing Jest. Or first of all, let's create a project folder. I'm going to create a project folder called test, and we'll just go into that folder and run our usual npm init-y to create an npm package. And we also want to create a script.js file. And let's open that up in our favorite text editor. Looking nice and pretty. Perfect. Now let's look at package.json, and obviously the first step we want to do is run npm install Jest. And actually, let me cancel this. Remember that Jest is for development purposes. We don't really need it as a dependency for our app. So usually when you install Jest, you want to do npm install -- save dev. Oops. Let's try that again. Jest. And remember that with the newer version of npm, when you do npm install Jest, it assumes the -- save as a dev or as a dependency. So that's why I didn't do the -- save here. Now, while this is loading, let's go into our scripts and change this to the test command. And all we need to do here is run Jest once it's installed. Not sure what happened here. It looks like a bit of an error. Let's just close this out and run it again. Now, while that's loading, let's go into our scripts file and think about what exercise we might want to incorporate. And I think having us incorporate a simple Google search functionality might be a fun little exercise. So let's do that. It looks like everything was added, so let's just hit clear, make this a little bit smaller. And again, if we go to package.json, we see that it's part of the dev dependencies. Not the dependencies, but dev, because we did the -- .save or -- save dev. In the script.js file, let's say that we're Google and we have a variable. This is going to be a simplified version of their search algorithm, but the principles are going to be the same. So let's say that the Google database has an array of all the websites that they've indexed. Let's say the first one is cats.com. Obviously, it's the internet after all. We also have souprecipes.com. Everybody loves soup. We have flowers.com. And let's just add one more. We'll say that we also have animals.com. Pretty basic websites. And these are all the websites that Google can search for you. Obviously, in real life, this list might be a little bit bigger. All right, so there's our Google database. And you know what? While we're at it, let's just add a few more. Catpictures.com. And maybe my favorite cats.com. All right, and I've added these last two because maybe if somebody searches for cats in the Google Chrome browser, well, we might want to show them these three links. Again, let's create a function, and this will just be the Google search function. And this function will take the search input that the user provides, so whatever they're searching for. And from there, it does a few things. First, we want to say, it's going to be a very simple algorithm. Obviously, this is way more complicated on Google, but the idea is we search something, and if there's some sort of a match, we want to return it. Let's just say that the Google database is going to get filtered. And using the filter function, we'll say that each item in the database is a website that is going to get filtered. And all we need to do is return the website that includes. So this is, let's say, cats.com. If it includes whatever the search input was. Like I said, very, very nice and basic Google search algorithm. And we also want to return these matches to the user because, well, that's what Google does. But let's say that we want to make sure, because hypothetically this database can get really, really big, we want to only return the top 3 results. So we can just say, let me make sure I spell that right first. We want to say if this dot length is greater than 3. If we have more than 3 matches, then we'll just say matches dot slice and just return the first 3 results. Otherwise, just return the regular matches. Let's make this smaller so we can see. All right, let's test this out and see if it actually works. I'm going to run the Google search function. And let's say that the search input that I'm going to put in will be soup. And let's just console.log this to make sure that whatever the output is, well, we log it into our terminal. Let me save. And again, with node, we can just run this node script.js. All right, look at that. I have soup recipes. If this changes to cats, I get cats.com and myfavoritecats.com, but not catpictures.com because it doesn't match cats. If we add another website here, let's call it myfavoritecats2, and I only search for cat. Oh, and make sure I add a comma. Always forget the comma. Let me clear this and try that again. All right, I only get 1, 2, and 3 results because we're doing this little slice. We're only returning the top 3 results. Awesome. We've just implemented Google on a simpler scale, but mind you, this is pretty much how Google works. All right, so that was fun, but how can we test this? Let's say we were at Google and we want to make sure that this Google search function works properly because it's an important function for our app. Since we have Jest installed, let's run npm test and see what happens. npm test. It just says no tests found because we haven't written any tests. But you can see over here that Jest automatically looks for anything that has either a folder that has the underscore tests and anything inside of it, or it's going to look at any file that has the spec or the test.js syntax. By that logic, I can just create a new file, script.test.js, or I can put spec in here, which is also common, and I hit enter. And if I run this again, I get a fail. It says your test suite must contain at least 1 test. All right, let's clear this. So how can we write a test for our Google search? And we'll get to that in the next video, but just to make sure that our test passes, I'll just show you one quick way that we can write unit tests in Jest. And that is, we have now an it function. And the first parameter of the it function, and again, this comes with Jest, but if you download other testing libraries, pretty much all of them have this function as well. Like I said, all these libraries have a very similar syntax. So if you know one, you can transition into the other quite easily with a few minor changes. So the first parameter in here is some sort of a string that will appear here. So let's just say this is a test. And then the second parameter is a function, which is the test that needs to run. In our case, we don't really have anything, but let's save this and run npm test. Whoa, look at that. We have our very first test. That was pretty easy, right? All we did was npm install Jest, and we already have this new it function, and we can run tests. And we see that this is a test passed in 1 millisecond. That's a pretty fast test. Everything is green and nice. Kind of feels good. Gives you a nice boost of dopamine. All right, in the next video, we're actually going to start writing some tests for our Google search. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.